Chapter 3544. The Formation Spirit in the Central Whirlpool. The intense warning from his spiritual sense suddenly interrupted his multitasking, preventing him from condensing Tao patterns and interrupting his comprehension of the Great Tao. Lin Moyu was startled awake. He found that he was only about 1,000 kilometers away from the central Great Whirlpool. His hair stood on end, and the wings of Time Curse spread out abruptly, vibrating madly, rapidly retreating. At this time, an enormous suction suddenly erupted, like a giant hand firmly grabbing him, trying to drag him over. The space around Lin Moyu distorted, and the skeleton hell automatically appeared, protecting Lin Moyu. Time and space fused, forming the power of space-time. Lin Moyu wanted to enter another space-time, using this to avoid the suction force. However, what he didn't expect was that the suction force also pierced through space-time, still firmly grabbing him. The power of Lin Moyu's entire body exploded, and the power of death poured down, working with the skeleton hell to devour and dissolve this suction force. The suction force was blocked for an instant, and Lin Moyu took the opportunity to explode with all his power, the wings of Time Curse vibrating to the extreme, teleporting him away, flying over 10,000 kilometers in one breath, away from the central Great Whirlpool. Lin Moyu finally breathed a sigh of relief. An angry roar came from the central Great Whirlpool, piercing into the soul. Lin Moyu vaguely saw a giant beast. This beast was wearing a sea god rune and poked its head out from the Great Whirlpool. The beast had 3 eyes, staring intently at Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu frowned slightly.
A formation spirit.
He recognized at a glance that this beast wasn't a real living being, but a formation spirit. Formation spirits were rare, and he had only seen them a few times. He hadn't expected this formation to actually hide a formation spirit, and an extremely powerful one at that. Just now, he had been so fascinated by watching the formation that he had been dragged over by the suction force without realizing it. If his spiritual sense hadn't suddenly warned him and woken him up, he might have really been dragged into the Great Whirlpool. Lin Moyu wasn't afraid. If they really fought, it was unknown who would win. The key was that now wasn't the time to fight. He would wait until after his trip to the origin ancestral land. That would be the time for a great battle between both sides. The formation spirit looked at Lin Moyu, and Lin Moyu looked at it as well. After a moment, the formation spirit resubmerged into the Great Whirlpool and disappeared. Lin Moyu said to himself,
This formation has a formation spirit. It seems that to enter the bottom of the boundary sea, I'll have to defeat this formation spirit first. The predecessor who arranged this formation is truly a great power. To be able to arrange such a powerful formation must be a high-level formation master. But looking at the structure and style of this formation, it seems to be different from that of the Great Tao formation sect, not the same.
In the process of observing the formation, he had gained quite a lot, having seen clearly some of the formation's functions. The formation was divided into many layers. It could absorb external forces, including the power of the origin in heaven and earth, and the power in the waters of the boundary sea, converting them into the power it needed. At the same time, it could maintain the formation's continuous operation. If any of the divine symbols were damaged, the formation could automatically recover. As such, the formation could operate continuously for countless years, regardless of the interference of time. The existence of the formation spirit gave the formation itself defensive power. It became extremely difficult for others to destroy the formation. This was like finding 10 permanent guardians for the formation. Formation groups that he had thought of in the past were generally combinations of the same kind of formation. But the formation group at the Central Whirlpool allowed Lin Moyu to see a completely new kind of formation group. Different formations could also fuse with each other, broadening his thinking and vision. Carrying his gains, Lin Moyu left the Great Whirlpool and continued flying towards the eastern continent. He put the thrilling moment that had just happened behind him. It wasn't the time yet, so there was no need to think too much about it. Lin Moyu once again multitasked, cultivating. At his speed, in another 2 or 3 days, he could fly out of the boundary sea and return to the eastern continent. Above the boundary sea, dark clouds were densely packed, and streaks of lightning fell, getting more and more numerous and dense. They struck the water surface, blasting out large waterspouts. Amidst the lightning, countless flying fish flew out from the boundary sea. They devoured the lightning, as if they themselves wanted to transform into lightning, dancing in the air. The scene was extremely magnificent. Lin Moyu flew past from afar, admiring this spectacular scene. The realm of these lightning fish wasn't high. Among them, the leader was only at the 3rd level of Tao Venerable, while the rest were only at the 1st level of Tao Venerable or even lower. Several figures suddenly flew over from afar. They formed a semi-encirclement and took out net-like treasures, shrouding towards the lightning fish.
Fishermen!
Lin Moyu glanced at them, not wanting to bother. These fishermen should be from a sect nearby. This place was not far from the eastern continent, and many islands had already appeared. There would be sects on these islands. These sects weren't powerful. Their disciples made a living by fishing. They would catch fish from the boundary sea and refine them into pills and other items, either using them themselves or selling them to exchange for origin crystals. Similarly, they would also be in danger when fishing, and it was very possible for them to be swallowed by the boundary sea. The fishermen had already engaged in a great battle with the lightning fish. Both sides were evenly matched, fighting fiercely. Lin Moyu didn't do anything, turning to leave. If it had been in the past, Lin Moyu would have watched for a while. If the fishermen were in danger, he might have helped them. But now he was no longer so kind. Unknowingly, he was standing at a higher angle. Whatever the outcome of both sides, whether they won or were in danger, it seemed normal to him. Anyone who did things wanting to gain something must pay something. This was relative. There was no such thing as unearned gains in this world. For cultivators, if they paid the price of their lives, that was actually quite normal. His mentality naturally and unconsciously changed. Lin Moyu didn't feel there was anything wrong with himself. With the change in strength, not changing would be the problem. Lin Moyu was without joy or sorrow, his thoughts clear, seeing all things in the world as if he were an observer. A faint light emanated from his body. Unknowingly, his soul level improved again, reaching the peak of the 8th grade innate soul. The improvement in his soul level didn't bring any substantial benefits to Lin Moyu right now. But once he entered the Great Tao realm, his soul level could directly transform into combat power. If he were to achieve the Great Tao realm now, his combat power would surpass many Great Tao realm beings who had cultivated for many years. The improvement in soul level was difficult, and Great Tao realm beings no longer had to worry about lifespan. Their cultivation time was measured in tens of thousands of years. To improve just one small level, they might need tens of thousands of years, or even hundreds of thousands of years. If they knew Lin Moyu's current soul level, each of them would probably be shocked. Lin Moyu revealed a smile.
This is an unexpected joy. It seems what little May said about me changing isn't necessarily a bad thing.
A day later, Lin Moyu left the boundary sea, and after another day of flying, returned to Yuedao City. Lin Moyu went to his small courtyard and greeted little May and the other 3, then entered the city lord's mansion to begin closed-door cultivation. Having cultivated all the way until now, he had hardly had time to cultivate in seclusion. This time, Lin Moyu decided to cultivate in seclusion properly, until the origin ancestral land appeared. In his soul world, Lin Moyu's soul sat cross-legged on the ice jade lotus seat, cultivating with his eyes closed. Tao patterns condensed one by one, taking 4 years for each. The speed wasn't fast, but it was very stable. Chapter 3545. Someone attacking Yuedao City? The vast majority of Tao patterns Lin Moyu had condensed were obtained through Great Tao rewards. In fact, there weren't many Tao patterns he had truly comprehended on his own. They could be counted on one hand. This time, he settled his mind and began to comprehend the Great Tao bit by bit to condense Tao patterns, which was also a very different experience. He comprehended the various mysteries within the Great Tao and began to understand how to more effectively utilize the power of the Great Tao. Lin Moyu sat motionless in the city lord's mansion for 20 years. In these 20 years, he gained a new understanding of the Great Tao. He discovered that the Great Tao power he had used before was too shallow and hadn't truly brought out the Great Tao's power. Although his combat power was already invincible in the Tao Venerable Realm, that was all through brute force. If he could understand how to utilize the Great Tao, his combat power could be further improved. A skeleton general appeared beside Lin Moyu. This skeleton general was enveloped by vast power of death. Techniques could carry the Great Tao. Lin Moyu had used this before, but after the undead army had its own bloody white-bone Great Tao, he never let them carry techniques again. This time, based on his new insights into the Great Tao, Lin Moyu once again let techniques carry the Great Tao, but differently from before. The skeleton general was enveloped by the power of death. It carried the law of undeath, but above its head, a bloody white-bone Great Tao still existed. Now this skeleton general simultaneously possessed two kinds of Great Tao power. In terms of combat power, the skeleton general's attacks gained an additional corrosive property, increasing overall combat power by about 10%. A 10% increase might not seem like much, but there weren't just one skeleton general but hundreds of billions. Added together, the increase was quite considerable. Another skeleton general appeared beside him. This time, the skeleton general was enveloped in pure white light, carrying the power of life. Then a third skeleton general appeared. Its body was illusory and hazy, as if not in this space, carrying the space Great Tao. One skeleton general after another came out. Except for the Thousand Stars Great Tao, the power of 5 Great Taos appeared, and could be changed at any time according to Lin Moyu's thoughts. The same technique could change freely among different Great Taos, making tactics much more diverse. Skeleton generals carrying the space Great Tao were the fastest. Skeleton generals carrying the power Great Tao had the strongest attack power. Skeleton generals carrying the fortune Great Tao could directly reduce others' fortune. These seemingly small changes could greatly increase the combat power of the undead army. As Lin Moyu's realm continued to improve and the power of the Great Tao constantly increased, even if the realm of the undead army no longer improved, their combat power could continue to strengthen. Another 20 years passed, and Lin Moyu had condensed another Tao pattern. Legion commanders were summoned one by one. Each Legion commander was enveloped by different Great Tao powers. Even the Dragon Cavalry Legion they summoned had Great Tao power on them. In this way, legions with various attributes were formed. Add to that their formation of battle arrays and fighting together, and their combat power skyrocketed.
The Great Tao is indeed profound. Compared to my previous use of brute force, this is much better.
Lin Moyu's thoughts moved slightly as he continued to comprehend the Great Tao. In these few decades, in the Thousand Stars Great Tao, stars were lit one by one. The former Star Lords had all found successors. However, these successors all needed a long time to cultivate. It was still far too early to restore the former glory of the Thousand Stars Great Tao. The fallen Sword Star Lord was still in slumber, but Lin Moyu felt that he had recovered quite a bit. Perhaps when he entered the Outer Sky Great Tao, the fallen Sword Star Lord could become his sharpest sword. Over these years, Lin Moyu's comprehension of the Great Tao deepened, and his understanding of divine symbol formations also constantly strengthened. He had completely digested the materials given by Gu Hanyu and Zimun, and even elevated beyond the foundation of their materials. Lin Moyu felt that his current level in divine symbol formations had already surpassed Zimun's. In the 72nd year of Lin Moyu's seclusion, a powerful aura rose from the city lord's mansion, and a muffled thunder sounded in the sky. In Yuedao City, everyone simultaneously looked up to see several Great Taos appearing in the sky. The Great Taos showered down pressure, and all cultivators in Yuedao City showed shocked expressions. Yuedao City exploded into an uproar, with discussions everywhere.
This is the pressure of a 7th-level ancestor. So many Great Taos. Have so many 7th-level ancestors come? What are so many 7th-level ancestors coming to do? Attack Yuedao City?
Most people were confused, thinking that 7th-level ancestors had come to cause trouble. If they weren't coming to cause trouble, they wouldn't reveal their Great Taos. Over these years, Yuedao City had always been peaceful, never having any incidents. Just as people were becoming anxious, 6 great Daos simultaneously disappeared, leaving people bewildered. Only the human emperor knew what was happening. The source of all this was actually Lin Moyu. With a thought, Lin Moyu had already teleported 1,000,000 miles away. As he left, the 6 great Daos naturally disappeared. In the wilderness 1,000,000 miles away, 6 great Daos hung high in the sky, showering down great Dao power like waterfalls onto Lin Moyu. The 7th level of Dao Venerable Realm was different from the 6th. This was a small leap and also the first time in the Dao Venerable Realm to truly approach the Great Dao. It was precisely because of approaching the Great Dao and being recognized by the Great Dao that the 7th level of Dao Venerable Realm could use more Great Dao power, with combat power far surpassing the 6th level of Dao Venerable Realm. This was also why the 7th level of Dao Venerable Realm was called a 7th level ancestor, while the 6th level wasn't. From the Dao Venerable Realm onwards, the 4th level saw the appearance of Great Dao True Bodies, which was a small leap. The 7th level approached the Great Dao, which was another small leap. For Lin Moyu, he was simultaneously approached by 6 Great Daos, gaining the most benefits. Lin Moyu could feel his power rising steadily. His realm, physical body, and soul truly caught up for the first time, standing together at the 7th level of Dao Venerable Realm. Lin Moyu had a wonderful feeling of being completely unified. Apart from the skeleton hell, his other techniques were also constantly improving. His Great Dao True Bodies became stronger and stronger. He could simultaneously use 3 types of Great Dao True Bodies, fusing them at will. The undead army continued to grow stronger as it expanded. With a thought from Lin Moyu, 20 Dao patterns flew out, continuing to fuse into the 5 major summoning techniques. The number of Dao patterns for each summoning technique increased from 8 to 12, still maintaining balance. Out of 126 Dao patterns, 124 were used, leaving only 2 Dao patterns in reserve. As the Dao patterns increased, their amplifying effect on techniques became greater and greater. 12 Dao patterns amplified the techniques, and all Dao patterns resonated with each other, further magnifying the amplifying effect. Among the summoning techniques, the Skeleton King and Dragon Cavalry both had combat power at the middle stage of the 8th level of Dao Venerable Realm. The Legion Commander's combat power reached the late stage of the 8th level of Dao Venerable Realm, infinitely close to the 9th level. The Skeleton Kings truly stood at the 9th level of Dao Venerable Realm. 3,000 Skeleton Kings meant 3,000 9th level Dao Venerable Fighters. This force alone was enough to steamroll the Origin continent. Lin Moyu completed his advancement, but the 6 great Daos in the sky didn't disappear. He looked up, and in an instant, his form became illusory and hazy. At this moment, he merged into the Great Dao, and through the Great Dao looked towards the outer sky. Chapter 3546. The Origin Ancestral Land is really coming. Having advanced to the 7th level of Dao Venerable Realm, he had one chance to merge his body with the Great Dao. By merging with the Great Dao, he could see the world of the outer sky Great Dao, and at the same time personally experience the Great Dao. The time for merging with the Great Dao wouldn't be too long. The opportunity was very rare. If it was before the Origin catastrophe when heaven and earth weren't severed, many Dao Venerables would have had the opportunity to enter the world of the outer sky Great Dao, and this time of merging with the Great Dao wouldn't have been so precious. But now it was different. Heaven and earth were severed, and this opportunity was very rare. Lin Moyu had 6 Great Daos. He could merge with the Great Dao 6 times with far more time than others. Entering the outer sky Great Dao, the power of the Great Dao enveloped his entire body. Lin Moyu saw the world of the outer sky Great Dao again, and also personally felt the Great Dao. One Great Dao after another appeared before his eyes. At this moment, Lin Moyu thought of when he was still in the small world, the scene when he first saw the runes of the large world through the technique sublimation. The scene at that time was even shorter, and he couldn't see it at all. It wasn't until he reached the large world that he had the chance to truly see the runes of the large world. At that time, Antares repeatedly observed the runes of the large world, but he didn't know what he was looking at, and even later, he wasn't very clear about it. Antares said he was looking at the runes of the large world, but with his realm, the runes of the large world weren't anything special. Later, The runes of the large world became hostile to him, preventing him from advancing, and Antares showed fear at that time. After entering the large world, as his realm increased, he became even more confused as to why Antares would fear mere runes of the large world. With his strength and realm, even destroying the large world wouldn't be difficult. It wasn't until a deep conversation with Antares dozens of years ago, when they talked about this issue, that he truly knew why. What Antares feared wasn't the runes of the large world, because what stopped him back then wasn't a rune of the large world, and what Antares saw wasn't just a rune of the large world. Antares wouldn't say what he had seen, but after repeated questioning, Antares was willing to reveal a bit. What he had seen and what had stopped him was indeed a kind of rune of the large world, but it wasn't the rune he later saw in the large world. At that time, his realm was too low, and he couldn't see the things hidden behind the runes of the large world. It's just that later, this thing disappeared, and Antares didn't know where it had gone. But he still wouldn't say what exactly it was. Lin Moyu always felt that a big hand was arranging him. Now it seemed that was really the case. Unable to figure it out, Lin Moyu simply passed the blame to the green-robed old man. Most likely it was this guy who arranged it. He temporarily put this matter aside. Lin Moyu didn't continue to think about it, because he knew there was no use in thinking more. When his strength was enough in the future, he would ask the green-robed old man, and he would definitely get an answer. The world of the outer sky Great Tao, Lin Moyu had seen many times. Through Antares' descriptions, he already had a rough outline of the outer sky Great Tao in his mind. The world he was in now was called the Origin Continent, referring to the place where he stood, the core of the entire world. And the outer sky Great Tao surrounded the core. They possessed powerful forces and were the embodiment of the world's power. The outer sky Great Taos constantly scattered their power into the Origin Continent, giving the Origin Continent the power of all the outer sky Great Taos. On the Origin Continent, one could cultivate all Great Taos, but in the outer sky Great Tao, one could only cultivate the power that matched the Great Tao. So the world of the outer sky Great Tao was very monotonous, not as rich as the Origin Continent. The Great Taos were very far apart from each other. Lin Moyu could see Great Taos similar to the Milky Way, just floating in the void. The Taiyang origin and Tai-Yin origin were also here, and they existed simultaneously. One existed on the front of the Origin Continent, and the other was on the back. Every so often, the Taiyang and Tai-Yin origins would exchange positions. The powers of these two origins were very strong, stronger than any Great Tao. As for why this was so, no one knew. Lin Moyu wasn't very interested in the world of the outer sky Great Tao. He valued his affinity with the Great Taos more. That was what was important. The higher the affinity, the more Great Tao power he could command after entering the Great Tao realm, and the stronger he would be among those at the same realm. After sensing 3 Great Taos in a row, he suddenly saw a streak of light flash past from the mist in the distance.
The Origin Ancestral Land.
Lin Moyu was shocked. Although it was just a fleeting streak of light, Lin Moyu still recognized it at a glance. This was the Origin Ancestral Land. He had seen the Origin Ancestral Land in the Destiny Plate. The Origin Ancestral Land didn't appear as if teleporting, but flew over. Lin Moyu looked at the direction the Origin Ancestral Land had appeared from. There, mist was heavy. It was already at the edge of the world. The Origin Ancestral Land dragged a long streak of light, flashing in and out of existence in the world mist at an alarming speed.
The Origin Ancestral Land is really coming, but it still needs time to fly to the Origin Continent.
After the 6 merges with the Great Tao ended, Lin Moyu's gaze was slightly lowered.
Based on the flight path and speed of the Origin Ancestral Land, it'll probably take over a dozen years. It seems the Destiny Plate wasn't wrong. At least it's really coming. This great change in heaven and earth.
While merging with the Great Tao, Lin Moyu also saw the changes on the Origin Continent. The Origin Continent was covered by a strange force. This force came from the Great Tao, isolating heaven and earth. This force didn't belong to any single Great Tao, but was an aggregate of all Great Taos. It could also be seen as the fundamental will of the Origin Continent. The fundamental will had no wisdom or thoughts, only instincts. It would make the appropriate choices at the appropriate time. After the origin catastrophe, this force enveloped the origin continent, causing the origin continent to shrink, starting to heal like it was in hibernation. Now, this force was weakening. The net covering the origin continent was beginning to loosen. Waiting for an opportunity, this net would be completely untied, and the origin continent would return to its original form. When the net was untied, it would inevitably trigger many things. The great Tao power accumulated outside the origin continent for countless years would erupt in an instant. This was the great change in heaven and earth, but these forces belonged to the outer sky great Tao, and cultivators on the origin continent couldn't obtain them. During the great changes in heaven and earth, the cultivators on the origin continent could all gain some benefits. If they wanted to gain more and greater benefits, they needed some methods. The three ancestors and the beast emperor were after these benefits. And so was he. Leading the great changes in heaven and earth would allow him to obtain the greatest benefits. In Lin Moyu's view, this was no different from the great Tao reward. If he wanted to lead the great changes in heaven and earth, the best method was to become the person who untied the net. Just like becoming the person who killed the otherworldly celestial beings. Lin Moyu had already thought of a method. That net was the seal at the bottom of the boundary sea. A black figure appeared in the distance. Lin Moyu looked up to see a 9th-level Tao Venerable flying over rapidly. He was wearing the uniform of the Lu Feng Chamber of Commerce and came before Lin Moyu.
Lu Jia greets Mr. Lin. The three ancestors would like to invite Mr. Lin to the mall.
Chapter 3547. I only seek to have no guilt in my heart. What was the three ancestors' intention in sending someone to invite him to the mall? Lin Moyu asked.
Did the three ancestors say what it was about?
Lu Jie shook his head.
He didn't say, just instructed me to tell Mr. Lin.
It seemed there was really something going on, and the three ancestors himself should be very busy, unable to get away. Had Yin Shun not finished what he was doing from before all these years later? Lin Moyu didn't think too much about it.
Then let's go.
Stepping onto the cloud-piercing sword, he flew toward the mall. After reaching the 7th level of Tao Venerable Realm, his affinity with the Great Tao allowed him to use much more Great Tao power. Lin Moyu's speed had increased a lot. Standing on the cloud-piercing sword, he wasn't much slower than Tao Venerable Realm 9th level beings like Lu Jia. At least the cloud-piercing sword had once followed its old master and almost become a great Tao treasure. Having only flown for half a day, the mall was already in sight. Seeing the mall from afar, Lin Moyu frowned slightly.
What is this?
The mall was enveloped by formations, and a satellite city had been destroyed, with the mall also clearly bearing the scars of war. Lu Jie said,
Over these years, our mall has always been harassed by external forces, with constant warfare.
No need to guess, it must be Yin Shun's doing. It seemed he had targeted the three ancestors, who told the three ancestors to use him as a tool to get rid of Yin Shun. Unexpectedly, not only had he let Yin Shun go, but he had also turned Yin Shun into his own gun. The three ancestors could be said to have tried to steal a chicken only to lose the rice used as bait. Yin Shun wasn't an idiot. He knew his strength. Rather than targeting the Beast Emperor and the three ancestors at the same time, it would be better to target just one person. So it was understandable that Yin Shun was now constantly targeting the three ancestors. Flying into the mall with Lu Jie, Lin Moyu felt a bit wary. The mall now was not what it used to be. The three ancestors might put the blame on him. If that was the case, he would have to find a way to kill his way out. Lin Moyu observed the formations in the mall, looking at the divine runes invisible to the naked eye, and calculated in his mind how to respond if the three ancestors attacked him. However, this possibility was unlikely. The three ancestors probably wouldn't attack him. Not to mention anything else. Just the green-robed old man behind him was enough to make the three ancestors wary. Before fully understanding his relationship with the green-robed old man, the three ancestors would basically not dare to do anything to him. Lin Moyu didn't mind using the green-robed old man as a flag, pretending to be powerful to intimidate others. In the mall, Lu Lian was already waiting. She teleported Lin Moyu to the mysterious space where the three ancestors was located. Coming here again, Lin Moyu had new feelings. This mysterious space was filled with the aura of the outer sky Great Tao, and a complex divine rune formation was operating. This formation should have used the treasures of the time Great Tao and space Great Tao as formation eyes, and used materials from these two Great Taos as lines to outline it. Here, time became chaotic. A long time in the outside world would be relatively shorter for people in the formation. Most importantly, this formation broke the spatial barriers in some sense and could draw upon some Great Tao power. In other words, the three ancestors seemed to be like the Beast Emperor, not cultivating. But who knew how long he had actually cultivated here? The three ancestors was just an avatar that came to the origin continent, so his strength was limited. At least Lin Moyu didn't feel the three ancestors was much stronger than the Beast Emperor. It seemed that creating such a special space wasn't for the three ancestors' own cultivation but had another use. The three ancestors was currently fiddling with a formation disk. This formation disk was also extremely complex, with everything telling Lin Moyu that the three ancestors himself was also a powerful formation master. After Lin Moyu arrived, he bowed slightly.
I wonder what matter the three ancestors called this junior for?
The three ancestors snorted lightly.
How dare I order you around?
Lin Moyu naturally understood his meaning and chuckled.
When the three ancestors was scheming against this junior, you naturally had to think about what to do if you failed.
The three ancestors raised his head, looking at Lin Moyu with a calm gaze.
I was indeed very surprised. I didn't expect you to be able to force Yin Shun to such an extent.
Lin Moyu said.
This junior naturally doesn't have that ability, just borrowing external forces.
The three ancestors said in a low voice.
How did you get to know that one from the Eastern Spirit Empire?
Lin Moyu shook his head slightly.
Three ancestors, you might as well just say what you have to say directly. There's no need to ask around like this.
He naturally couldn't tell the three ancestors about his relationship with Antares. Moreover, he was clear that the three ancestors had invited him over not to ask these things. The three ancestors said,
You shouldn't have forgotten what you promised this old man, right?
Lin Moyu thought for a moment.
Are you talking about the origin ancestral land?
The three ancestors made an sound.
That's right, it's appeared, and will probably arrive in just over a decade.
Lin Moyu said.
I naturally won't forget. But as far as I know, those who have entered before have very chaotic memories and can't clearly explain the situation in the origin ancestral land. Over these years, the Lu Feng Chamber of Commerce must have had quite a few people enter. The three ancestors should also know the result.
The three ancestors shook his head.
No, you are different from them. Their memories are chaotic because their souls aren't strong enough, so they are affected. Your soul has reached the innate level, so your memories will most likely not be affected.
The reason the three ancestors could make such a judgment, Lin Moyu guessed, was related to the people who had entered from the Lu Feng Chamber of Commerce. Many people from the Lu Feng Chamber of Commerce had entered the origin ancestral land, with varying cultivation levels and different soul realms, and their performance after coming out also varied. Through their different performances, they could deduce what were the determining factors in how strongly they were affected. The three ancestors clearly knew some things, so he would say such words. Lin Moyu said,
If that's really the case, then I will tell you what happened in the origin ancestral land. However, please forgive me if there are things that involve my personal secrets. I won't say them.
The three ancestors said,
This old man is not interested in your secrets.
Lin Moyu smiled and said,
Then what things in the origin ancestral land are the three ancestors interested in? If this junior sees them, I can pay more attention.
The three ancestors glared at Lin Moyu.
Don't try to trick me. Just tell me what you can tell this old man. As for how much to say, that depends on your own heart.
Lin Moyu smiled.
That's natural. I only seek to have no guilt in my heart. I will definitely fulfill what I promise you.
The three ancestors said,
Good, there's one more thing. If Feng Yao also enters the origin ancestral land this time, if you can take care of her, please do so.
Lin Moyu said.
3 ancestors, don't worry. Sister Feng Yao is my friend. If she really enters, I will definitely take care of her.
Each time the origin ancestral land appears, it randomly selects people. You can't just enter if you want to, nor can you not enter if you don't want to. It's very domineering, not giving you a chance to refuse. So far, no one knows the specific rules for the origin ancestral land selecting people, but it's certain that the children of Taiyang and children of Taiyin can definitely enter. There has never been an exception. The children of Taiyang, after entering the origin ancestral land, have never come out alive. At least a few children of Taiyin have come out alive. The children of Taiyin who come out are also memory deficient, knowing nothing about their experiences inside, as if they had a big dream, unable to remember what happened in the dream after waking up. Chapter 35-48. The origin ancestral land descends. The 3 ancestors had given Lin Moyu a treasure, which was a shield. This shield came from a great Tao realm being in the outer sky great Tao and required soul power at the innate level to activate. Once activated, the shield could protect Lin Moyu, at least blocking a great Tao realm being for a period of time. As for whether it would be useful in the origin ancestral land, the 3 ancestors couldn't be certain, but it was better than nothing. Currently, there were very few people on the entire origin continent who could use this shield. Great Tao realm beings like the 3 ancestors and Beast Emperor naturally had no problem. But people like Little Yu and Little Mei, possessing special physiques and innate souls, lacked sufficient strength due to their lower realm. So their soul power was too weak to activate the shield. But the 3 ancestors and Beast Emperor couldn't enter the origin ancestral land, and Little Yu and Little Mei couldn't either. So, the only one who could truly use this shield in the origin ancestral land was Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu understood the 3 ancestors' intention. The 3 ancestors hoped he could return alive and tell him about the situation in the origin ancestral land. Clearly, the 3 ancestors were very interested in the origin ancestral land, but unable to enter himself, he could only borrow the hands of others. Lin Moyu left the mall and headed towards the Boundary Sea. Now, with about a dozen years before the origin ancestral land opened, it was still enough time for him to take a trip to the Boundary Sea. After stepping into the 7th level of Tao Venerable Realm, the difficulty of condensing Tao patterns doubled again. Previously, he could condense 1 Tao pattern in 4 years. Now, it would take at least 16 years to condense 1 Tao pattern. The increase in years was much more exaggerated than before. At this rate, it would take him almost 300 years to advance to the 8th level of Tao Venerable Realm. For other Tao Venerables, 300 years was very short. Not to mention 300 years, even 30,000 years wasn't long. For those 7th level ancestors, if they were told they could advance to the 8th level of Tao Venerable Realm in 3,000 years, they would all close themselves off and cultivate hard for 3,000 years without hesitation. But Lin Moyu felt that 300 years was too long. He vaguely felt that the great changes in heaven and earth weren't far off. If he wanted to enter the great Tao realm during the great changes, he had to seize the time. The origin ancestral land had appeared, so he had to go. The green-robed old man wouldn't say things randomly. The origin ancestral land must be very important. So after returning from the origin ancestral land, he would have to start preparing to unleash the great changes in heaven and earth. The great changes in heaven and earth had to be unleashed by his own hand. Only then could he lead the changes and gain the greatest benefits. So he couldn't wait too long. The longer the time dragged on, the more unexpected events there would be. Before heading to the Boundary Sea, Lin Moyu first took a trip to the Eastern Spirit Empire. Antares wasn't in the Eastern Spirit Empire. The number of spirit beasts in the Eastern Spirit Empire had decreased a lot. They had all gone to the Western continent. And Antares wasn't in the Western continent either. He had gone to the Northern continent to subdue those spirit beasts there. He was also preparing for the great changes in heaven and earth. Whether it was the 3 ancestors, the Beast Emperor, or Antares, they all had something they were seeking. Lin Moyu once again entered the Boundary Sea. This time, it only took him less than 2 days to return to the center of the Boundary Sea. Looking at the great whirlpools, Lin Moyu went directly to the central whirlpool. The whirlpools on the periphery were all derivatives of the central whirlpool and weren't worth his time to stay at. His purpose on this trip was clear: to observe the formation in the central whirlpool. Lin Moyu felt that his formation skills had reached a bottleneck and he needed to learn more profound formations to break through. Lin Moyu stopped 1,000 kilometers away from the central whirlpool. With his current cultivation, the suction force from 1,000 kilometers away couldn't affect him at all. Light rose in his eyes, and he began to observe the formation. This time he sat on the cloud-piercing sword. He himself retained a trace of will and let the big head weapon spirit control the cloud-piercing sword, preventing himself from being sucked into the central whirlpool without realizing it like last time. He saw the formation spirit in the central whirlpool. The formation spirit in the central whirlpool was hidden in the formation. Its 3 eyes flashed with fierce light, glaring at Lin Moyu viciously. Even Lin Moyu felt a trace of chill. This formation spirit was too ferocious. Lin Moyu didn't know how the formation master back then had created such a formation spirit. The ferocious formation spirit looked at Lin Moyu from afar. Seeing that Lin Moyu didn't show any intention of approaching, it submerged back into the formation and disappeared. Lin Moyu wasn't planning to get close for now. He had just come to observe the formation and didn't want to enter the formation yet. Observing the formation was for 2 purposes. One was to learn divine runes, and the other was to prepare for the future. After returning from the origin ancestral land, he might have to enter the great whirlpool. At that time, the more he understood about this formation, the bigger the difference it would make. Looking at the flow of divine runes in the central whirlpool from afar, he continuously comprehended the methods of that formation master, how one divine runes after another completed linking, how one formation after another managed to nest within each other, and be able to fuse with each other without interfering with each other, and also be able to exert an even more powerful effect. Various wondrous methods were worth Lin Moyu's contemplation and learning. Strands of comprehension gathered in his heart. Although nothing could be seen in the short term, when enough comprehension had gathered, it would usher in a great explosion, and perhaps he would understand it at that time. Time passed year by year, and Lin Moyu sat on the cloud-piercing sword, unmoving. 18 years later, Lin Moyu suddenly woke up and looked up. In the distant sky, a point of light appeared, rapidly approaching the origin continent. Even the Taiyang origin couldn't hide this point of light.
It's finally here.
Lin Moyu murmured softly. The light grew brighter and brighter, and its volume also grew larger and larger. Like the Taiyang and Taiyin origins, it hung high in the sky. No matter where one was on the origin continent, as long as they looked up, they could see its existence. At this moment, almost all Tao venerables knew that the origin ancestral land had appeared. A powerful and noble force showered down from the origin ancestral land. It entered the origin continent, transforming into raindrops falling down. At this moment, a drizzle fell on the entire origin continent. Lin Moyu stood in the rain, and he could feel the powerful force contained in the raindrops. This force was extremely restrained, yet extremely powerful at a level never seen before. It was like a high and mighty emperor. At this moment, all Taos were silent. Everyone had lost their connection with the great Tao in an instant. At this moment, ordinary people were still ordinary people, but Tao venerables were no longer Tao venerables. All Taos of the origin continent were suppressed, and no one could mobilize even a trace of great Tao power. The myriad great Taos were firmly suppressed by the origin ancestral land, and even the light of the Taiyang origin became dim. The origin ancestral land was high above, looking down on all living beings in the world. This rain, spreading throughout the entire origin continent, didn't stop. No matter how much rain fell, the rivers, streams, waterfalls, and boundary sea didn't increase in level in the slightest. No one knew where these raindrops went or why they disappeared. On the origin continent, whether you were in a room or cultivating in seclusion in a secret chamber, the rain appeared everywhere, falling on one Tao venerable after another. But for great Tao realm beings, the rain actively avoided them. Below the great Tao realm, the rain would pass through their bodies, ignoring them. For a time, the entire origin continent was in an uproar. Countless people looked up at the sky, looking at the second origin that appeared in the sky. They didn't know that this was the origin ancestral land.
What is this thing? What strange rain? Why is it passing through my body? This rain is really too strange. Even being in a room is useless. It's really strange.
Chapter 3549. Come Back Alive. At this moment, the three ancestors and the Beast Emperor were both watching the origin ancestral land. The arrival of the origin ancestral land suppressed their power. At this moment, they became extremely weak. Even great Tao realm beings like them were suppressed, let alone others. They all wanted to enter the origin ancestral land, but they couldn't. The rain falling from the origin ancestral land didn't fall on them at all, automatically avoiding them. They could see it but couldn't touch it. Lin Moyu had also lost contact with the Great Tao at this moment. Of his 6 Great Taos, only the undying Great Tao still existed. The other 5 Great Taos had all disappeared, as if they had never been.
Why is the undying Great Tao unaffected? That's strange. Could it be that the undying Great Tao has something special about it? The origin ancestral land, what exactly is its origin? It suppresses all Great Taos as soon as it arrives. It's really quite domineering.
Lin Moyu stood in the rain, and the Tai Yin symbol was shining brightly. The power of the origin ancestral land transformed into raindrops, scattering across the origin continent. Although Lin Moyu could feel the vast power in the raindrops, he found that he couldn't absorb or utilize these powers at all. The level of power in the rain was too high, so high that he couldn't gain any benefits from it. That feeling wasn't comfortable. Only the Tai Yin symbol was getting brighter and brighter, shining. Lin Moyu felt the power belonging to the Tai Yin origin was emanating from the Tai Yin symbol, flowing throughout his body. He could feel the power of Tai Yin every day, but almost no one could comprehend the great Tao of the Tai Yin origin. Even though he had become the child of Tai Yin, it was still the same. Only when the Tai Yin origin appeared could everything about him be amplified by 30%, but it was all beyond his control. Lin Moyu never included the Tai Yin symbol when calculating his combat power. With the descent of the origin ancestral land, the Tai Yin symbol was finally truly activated. The Tai Yin power enveloped his entire body, carrying him slowly towards the origin ancestral land. Lin Moyu didn't resist, following this force upward. The distance grew further and further, and the boundary sea gradually shrank in view. He felt like he was going to fly out of the sky, no longer bound by the origin continent. The so-called extreme of heaven had no effect on him. The power of the origin ancestral land completely suppressed the power of the great Taos of the origin continent. All the power of the great Taos was ineffective against it at this moment. As far as the eye could see, apart from himself, no one else was flying into the origin ancestral land like this. As if passing through a layer of bubble, Lin Moyu realized that he had truly left the origin continent and entered another space. This was the world of the outer sky Great Tao, but at this moment it belonged to the origin ancestral land. All Great Tao power was suppressed, unable to move. Lin Moyu saw what seemed to be figures flickering in the distance. Great Tao realm beings were observing this place. These Great Tao realm beings seemed unable to get close and couldn't enter the origin ancestral land. The rain from the origin ancestral land would only fall in the origin continent, and would avoid all Great Tao realm beings. The Great Tao realm beings in the outer sky Great Tao could only watch helplessly. Looking around, Lin Moyu found that he was the only one flying up. No one else had made a move yet. He was getting closer and closer to the origin ancestral land, and his speed was also getting faster and faster. The origin ancestral land was like a giant ball of light. He couldn't see through the situation inside at all. The closer he got to the origin ancestral land, the stronger the power flowing out from the Tai Yin symbol became. Then a streak of auspicious light shot out from the origin ancestral land, like it was welcoming him, and landed on him with a boom. Lin Moyu's vision blurred, and his entire body automatically transformed into lightning, rushing into the origin ancestral land. Not long after Lin Moyu entered the origin ancestral land, The rain that had been falling for a long time suddenly stopped collectively, then rolled back. The rain returned the way it had fallen. However, when the rain returned to the origin ancestral land, it rolled up a batch of Tao Venerables, carrying these Tao Venerables back with it. The origin ancestral land didn't give them the right to choose, and no one knew the rules for selecting people by the origin ancestral land. Fortunately, the Tao Venerables all knew of the origin ancestral land's existence. The selected Tao Venerables didn't panic, and one by one followed the power of the origin ancestral land, rising into the sky, leaving the origin continent, and entering the origin ancestral land. The three ancestors' gaze pierced through the sky, staring at the origin ancestral land, muttering in his mouth,
10,000 Tao Venerables. This time there are more people going than before. Adding Lin brother, there are a total of 10,001 people.
The Beast Emperor also said in a low voice at this moment,
Lin brother, you're destined.
And Terry's held his head high.
Brother, come back alive.
Because of his identity as the child of Tai Yin, Lin Moyu going to the origin ancestral land was inevitable. Historically, the probability of a child of Tai Yin returning after entering the origin ancestral land wasn't high, less than 20%. But fortunately, he wasn't the child of Tai Yang. All the children of Tai Yang had never returned. After a long period of blurriness in his vision, it was gradually becoming clearer. Lin Moyu didn't feel like his feet were on solid ground. He knew he was floating in midair. A force was pulling him, dragging him in one direction. This force was very gentle and not very powerful. He could resist it completely, because he didn't know where he was. Lin Moyu didn't resist this force. Lin Moyu didn't feel any danger. He quietly waited for his vision to recover. Bits of light entered his vision. Lin Moyu vaguely saw points of light. At first, there was only one point of light, then the points of light increased, becoming 10, 100, 1,000. When his vision recovered a little more, Lin Moyu finally saw these points of light clearly. Each point of light was an origin like the Tai Yang and Tai Yin origins. Countless Tai Yang origins and Tai Yin origins floated in this void. They emitted bright light, illuminating this void brightly. Even with Lin Moyu's state of mind, he was a bit shocked at this moment.
How can there be so many origins?
The cultivators in the origin continent all knew that the Tai Yang origin and Tai Yin origin were the two most important and most powerful origins on the origin continent. They respectively represented the Yin and Yang forces. Some even felt that the spirit veins in the origin continent were nurtured by the Tai Yang and Tai Yin origins. Others said that even the entire origin continent, with its thousands of great Taoists, all came from the Tai Yang and Tai Yin origins. Quite a few people believed that the Tai Yang and Tai Yin origins were the foundation of the origin continent. Lin Moyu had always maintained an objective attitude towards these views. They might be right, but because there was no evidence, it was impossible to make an accurate judgment. But it had to be admitted that the Tai Yang origin and Tai Yin origin were extremely powerful. Even during the origin catastrophe, they had not been damaged. But now, suddenly seeing so many Tai Yang and Tai Yin origins, how could he not be shocked? The two types of origins, emitting forces with completely opposite properties, were intertwined and entangled in this vast void, indistinguishable from each other. And the force pulling him came from the nearest Tai Yin origin. Said to be the nearest, but the distance was at least millions of kilometers. If he didn't resist, perhaps in tens of thousands of years, he would fly to the Tai Yin origin. Lin Moyu didn't take any action. He quietly observed his surroundings. When he wasn't sure if there was danger around, he felt that staying still was probably the best choice. In this clean world, Lin Moyu suddenly saw something similar to a strand of hair in the distance. When he looked carefully, his eyes narrowed slightly.
Origin spirit vein.